Good morning. Welcome again to Biospain. We hope you are enjoying your experience here in Pamplona or wherever you are, if you are following us via streaming. Let's get things underway with the first panel of the day, Paving the Road from Back to Bedside in Atmps. Please welcome our moderator, Lidia Canovas, General Manager of the Regulatory Affairs of Asphalion, Spain. Accompanying her on the panel brought to you in collaboration with Asphalion, we have Mariano Garcia from Red Tercel, Spain, Darren Morrissey, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of the National Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training of Ireland, Sol Ruiz from the Biological Product Advanced Therapies and Biotechnology Division of the Spanish Agency for Medicines and Health Products, and Pilar Redondo, site head at Takeda, Spain. All yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here, opening this session on Atmps, from the bench to the bedside. And first of all, I am Lidia Canovas, the General Manager of Regulatory Affairs at Asphalion. For those who do not know Asphalion, we are a consultancy company focusing in regulatory affairs and scientific services, and founded in year 2000. So during these 20 years, we have been collaborating with many companies and initiatives regarding Atmps. Today, the objective of the session is to discuss the critical aspects for those companies and startups and groups developing on Atmps. And for this, we have an exceptional panel of speakers. We have with us Danis Morrissey, Mariano Garcia, Pilar Redondo, and Sol Ruiz. With all them, we will focus on the different aspects of the critical paths for the development of Atmps in the manufacturing, in the logistics, in the industrialization, and in regulatory. So I will introduce very briefly each of the panelists, of the speakers, and then I will give the word to them. So first, the first speaker will be Danis Morrissey. Darren is the CEO of the National Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training in Ireland. Previously, Darren was the Director of Programs and Investments with Science Foundation in Ireland, where he led the delivery of STEM research funding to the Irish Research Institution. Past experience also were in the industry with GSK and Sanofi and other roles across clinical research. The second speaker will be Mariano Garcia Ranz. Mariano Garcia is the co-director of the Laboratory of New Therapies of the Instituto de Investigación Sanitaria Fundación Jiménez Díaz, together with Professor Damián García Olmo, and has a very long experience in the development of Atmps. He is also a principal researcher of many competitive investigation projects and associate professor of the Department of Surgery of the Facultad de Medicina de la Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. The next speaker will be Pilar Redondo. Pilar Redondo is now site head at Takeda since 2019. She has a master's degree in pharmacy, in pharmaceutical technology and advanced management program, and has over 30-year experience in different positions in the pharmaceutical industry. Previously, she occupied positions at Tygenix as Senior Director of Technical Operations, positions of pharmaceutical development in PharmaMar, Nocira, Cepa Schwartz, and Pharma Sierra. And last but not least, Dr. Sol Ruiz, who is head of biologics, biotechnology, and advanced therapies at the Spanish Agency of Medicines. Since 2014, she has been the chair of Biologics Working Party at the European Medicines Agency and is also a member of the EMA Committee for Advanced Therapies. With no delay, I give the word to Darren Morrissey, please, who will elaborate about critical aspects in manufacturing from a development perspective.
Hello, Lydia. Very nice to speak with you today. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, excellent. Well, look, first and foremost, forgive me for not being there with you in person. I visited Pamplona many years ago and I really liked it. It would have been wonderful to get back there in more normal times, but unfortunately, it'll need to wait for another time. Um, I have a few slides and I'm conscious again that I need to share them on screen. Can you see those slides?
Not yet. Are you sharing your screen?
I am meant to be sharing, but look, I can probably do this without slides anyway. So I'll continue to share here and see perhaps it'll fix as time goes on. So I will keep going. So I suppose the first thing is to say I am going to focus on the manufacturing challenges that have to be overcome in order to fulfill the tremendous promise of ATMPs, both for investing companies and more importantly for patients and for society. So, and I will advance the slides because, as I say, behind the scenes there may be somebody who can fix the technical issues. So, firstly, what I wanted to do was share a little bit about NIBRT. NIBRT, as you said, is the National Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training here in Ireland, and we're headquartered in Dublin. As an institute, we are just over 10 years old, and we were established as a collaboration between IDA Ireland, which is Ireland's inward investment agency, and a number of Ireland's leading higher education institutes. And that's with the objective of supporting the biopharmaceutical manufacturing industry to address research and training needs, and really, I suppose, to support IDA in attracting multinational manufacturing investment from the global biopharma industry. So if you could see the slide, you would see a lovely picture of a facility, which is 6,500 square meters, state-of-the-art, pilot-scale manufacturing facility. And in this facility, we partner with industry to deliver training and education services, contract research services. We also work with them on collaborative research, and we win competitively won research from the state research funding agencies and from above super estate as well, Horizon Europe and so on. So that's the introduction to us, and I think importantly then, I mentioned the state-of-the-art facility. If you could see the slide, you would see a very nice picture of a building, and within that building you have essentially extensive upstream, downstream, fill finish, and analytical facilities operating in a realistic GMP simulated environment. And what we do also now increasingly, particularly with COVID, is we operate both remotely and in person. So we deliver training through a hybrid delivery mechanism. And we also have an online academy where you can access modules remotely. And I would encourage anyone who wants to know more to search for NIBRT Online Academy, and you can access programs there and see the services we provide. So what this facility does and what we have managed to achieve over the last 10 years has been quite dramatic. NIBRT, or rather the facility has supported the investment of over 10 billion in capital investment from the multinational biopharma sector, created 30,000 jobs directly in Ireland and many more indirect jobs. And we now have 15 of the world's top 20 biopharma companies manufacturing in facilities in Ireland. And NIBRT has been directly linked with over a billion of this 10 billion investment. We train 5,000 people per year in our facility, another 5,000 online, deliver 30,000 hours of training. And we've also are building these global research and training partnerships with a number of reputable institutions around the world in places like the US, China, Canada, Korea, Australia. So the curriculum, the NIBR curriculum, is now being used to train professionals in biopharmaceuticals around the world. Now, of course, recent years, we've seen a massive surge in interest and focus on advanced therapeutics. Again, we will be talking a lot about I suppose, the potential market of these therapies, cell therapies, gene edited therapies, and most recently, I think the big shift into oligonucleotide based therapies and vaccines. And this broad category, it clearly represents the next big surge in biopharma, the next big wave. It delivers precise, targeted therapeutics that have long-term therapeutic benefits, so beyond the traditional therapies. And again, just a couple of stats for you. There are hundreds now of regulatory ATMP filings in the last 3 or 4 years. A rapid number of biotech companies, nearly 1,000 strong, are working in the area. And in recent years, the large multinationals and the CDMOs, the contract development and manufacturing organizations, have been increasingly investing in the area as well through acquisitions, partnerships, and through their own R&D. And Ireland has already had some success in attracting a number of companies manufacturing in the space. Takeda would be one example, have developed a new facility to manufacture their new allogeneic therapy in Dublin. Wuxi have developed their new vaccines facility in the northeast of the country. A company called Mira GTX, a UK biotech company, are developing a new viral vector manufacturing facility in the west of Ireland. And also we have Pfizer, who very recently announced that they would move a certain proportion of their mRNA vaccine manufacturing to Dublin as well. But notwithstanding all the growth that is already happening, there are areas of challenge. And the 3 areas of challenge that I just wanted to touch on today for the manufacturing of advanced therapies are as follows. The first area, and I will keep advancing my slides here, even though you can't see them.
Can you try again?
Yeah, well, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to maybe try and share one more minute.
Because now we can see a very small, the slides are very small. Is there any other way you have to, you have another option to share the screen?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm dependent on the people who were helping me before, so I wouldn't know how to do that.
Okay.
So my apologies. Anyway, look, I can speak to these, and I think hopefully it'll make sense. So the first big challenge is involving skills shortages. It's all about people. And there are skills shortages that are happening in the broader biopharma industry anyway. It's the raison d'etre of organizations like NIBRT. The most recent annual report of biopharmaceutical capacity and production tells us that downstream processing and upstream process development, and then also formulation and engineering around upstream and formulation are a number of critical areas in the broader biopharma sector. Digital skills as well are starting to feature increasingly as a gap in people's skills and capabilities. ATMPs, though, they represent a different type of biopharma manufacturing in that they're hugely diverse. So all the different modalities we've spoken about, cell, modified cell, autologous, allogeneic, gene therapy, viral and non-viral based, and then you've got vaccines. And there is little or limited consistency or standards of manufacturing practice in these areas. And this is putting even greater pressure on the overall skills requirements of the industry. Now, the specific ATMP gaps that we're picking up are in areas like cell culture techniques, so very much at the practical operational end, in the analytics space, so skills gaps around cell-based assays, plasmid or vector analytics, cell and gene therapy characterization. And then there's also what I would say is kind of softer people skills where, we require people to be more flexible and more adaptable because they're working in kind of more diverse environments. And they also need to be, as I said before, more tech and digital oriented. So, and I suppose as ATMPs are rising with their level of complexity, they're now pulling the best staff from the more traditional biopharma product lines. That's exacerbating the overall shortages. So look, the solutions, I suppose, are very multifaceted in the same way as the problem is multifaceted. So it's all about really creating consistent, strong pipeline of talent. Governments need to invest in STEM education and creating graduates. Universities and higher education need to invest in the right courses that are very future proofed, both at graduate and postgraduate level. And companies need to continue to invest on retraining and upskilling through in-work training and apprenticeships. So the second big challenge, and I will be quicker on this one, is all around the manufacturing processes themselves. So these are complex processes, and as I said before, there's limited standards of manufacturing practice at the moment, and that is creating, I suppose, what you end up with is processes that are still too small scale, too bespoke, with limited operational standards underlying them. And as a result, scalability is an issue, particularly for cell therapy. Yield is an issue, both on cell and gene therapy and also for vaccines. And then quality will always be an issue as well in terms of consistency of product until you deliver your operational standards. So this then is generating, I suppose, overall inefficiency in the manufacturing of ATMPs, and that's generating very high costs of goods. Now, for us, the solution is, I suppose we would say this, it's all about trial and error, and it's all about actually taking time and to focus and to research the manufacturing processes to deliver your operational scale, your economies of scale. So whether it's optimizing design of the facility, optimizing common platforms, delivering better automation, working on things like continuous manufacturing, or getting right into the molecule and actually starting to characterize the cell as therapy, viral vector systems, and characterizing oligonucleotide-based systems, like we did with the monoclonals over the last 20 years. We really need to invest in research in this area, and we need to do that now. So that's the second challenge. And the third challenge will overlap, I'm sure, with what Sol and potentially Pilar will talk about in a while, which is basically the complexity around the regulatory system. So yeah, ATMPs, highly complex, highly diverse, and that creates all sorts of capacity challenges. And I'm aware that, 80% of the regulatory focus for ATMPs will be on how they're manufactured and how they can be delivered with consistency, with quality, with purity, ultimately with safety for patients and health systems. So simple solution, and it's not an easy one, but it's so simple, is that it is about hiring the right people in the right numbers. So I think it is about capacity, the regulators hiring more staff and training more staff in the ATMP area. So to conclude, we just wanted to say a few words on what Ireland has been doing most recently, just by comparison to other countries. In 2018, we established a kind of a cross-stakeholder forum called the CGT Forum, putting together companies, research institutes, government agencies, and kind of public and private working together. We produced a white paper with a series of recommendations to government on investment in areas like capability development, research excellence, and infrastructure. We developed a broader ATMP-focused report then that went to the Cabinet in 2020. And investment is now starting to happen, and IDA Ireland are now promoting Ireland and having success with the likes of Takeda, Mira, WuXi, Pfizer, like I mentioned before. And for NIBRT as an institute, I'm delighted to say that we're broadening our focus now beyond monoclonals and recombinant proteins. We won't be forgetting traditional biopharma, but we are very much orienting our future towards ATMPs. And we are also expanding our facility. So we have a 21 million euro investment from IDA to broaden out our facility and to deliver more ATMP focused training and ATMP research as well. But let me say, we are today open for business even without the expanded facility. We are already working in the area and seeing tremendous interest from companies on both the training and research side of things. So hopefully, without any slides, I was able to get across my message, and I'm very happy to take questions now or later on in the discussion.
Thank you very much, Darren. Very clear explanation, no matter that the slides were not there. And we move on to the next speaker, Mariano Garcia Ranz, who will focus on the critical aspects on clinical and logistics aspects of ATMPs. Mariano, please.
Thank you, Lydia. Congratulations to the organization because this day really is very, very interesting. And thanks to Technician because the collection is very good and very easy. Well, I am going to speak about the own thing. It's a point that briefly touched me to comment in the fundamental. It's a life considered aspect, but it's critical in my opinion. The legislative aspect is as well as when and the manufacturing process are increasing clear areas, but we have a hard problem that caused many clinical trials and advanced therapy treatment to fail. The principal question that I have to I go to intend to respond is what factor influenced within the hospital once advanced therapy medicine has arrived. And in my opinion and experience, there are three fundamental factors. First, we have in our homes living medicine. Second, this drug have a short caducity. And third, both aspects imply a different manipulation to usual the other medicine. When our medicine arrives to the hospital, the first step is the pharmacy department. As in any drug, the revision of the packaging is essential, but in living medicine is important careful manipulation and maintain the temperature range. This involves people training and is fundamental first step. Other important step is transport of the medicine to application room. In this step, it's essential to buy green calculation of the vials. In our experience, the best for this is a packing to prevent the mobility of the vial containing Atmps. The next step in hospital is the suspension of the advanced therapy product. Perhaps this point is one of the more critical procedures. With conventional drugs, the suspension of the product is carried out on high speed and high vigorous movement. With a living medicine, it's different. If you suspend quickly or vigorous, the cell will die by friction, and if you respond too slowly, possibly increase of the temperature and slow agitation will generate clean camp, and this will cause high cell mortality when passed through injured needles. As an example, in our first clinical trial, poor drug healing did not allow us to achieve the statistically and significant result. When we analyzed cell manipulation by different clinical strains, we found vigorous shaking, lung formation, losing when performing surgery in the most hospitals. This is a cell mortality rate of more than 44% prior to application. This is a critical point. And the last step is a living medicine application. There are usually two application systems for this type of drugs. The first, intravenous or intraarterial, where the main aspect to consider is diffusion rate, and rapid speed display the possibility terrain of cellular accumulation in the blood vessels. This is an increased rate on the patients. It's an important point. And the second application system is local injection. In this case, both the infusion rate and the formation of large heat accumulation in the body are important. It aids limits nitrate and oxygen to the cells. Well, considering this aspect, my advice is first, training personnel hospital. Second, to incorporate into the cell implant a person in to manipulation advanced therapy products. Obviously, this person must be the training. And third, to generate a checking system for all medicine implant with control of all the step. And the last question that I have to speak in this forum is caducity of the cells. If we consider that we are the line with living medicine, we have to modify some clinical aspect. With conventional drug, We are using chloroquine then for the pharmacy department. And in this short space of the time, we have them in our dispose, okay? In this case, it's important to plan the treatment in advanced therapies, in this case of allogenic products, at last 7 and 10 days are necessary for the dispersion. If you want to use autologous products, we will need a previous surgery of the prime patient to be treated and waiting between 1 and 3 months to obtain the medication.
Sí, sí que estoy.
It's very, very, sorry. And finally, the other important aspect is the time expiration of advanced therapy medicine. In the most case, once the medicine is referred to the hospital, this time is less than 24 hours. This implies that treatment must be planned in advance and coordinated with the laboratory producer. And this is the point and synthesis of the different principal points to consider in the hospital to the application the Atmps therapy. And if you have any questions to the last of the forum of the table, we can to answer. Thank you very much for. Thank Lydia.
Thank you, Mariano, for this explanation on the critical aspects of manipulations, handling, and administration of ATMPs from the clinical sites and hospitals. And well, we give the room to Pilar Redondo, site head of Takeda, who will explain the challenges from commercial ATMP.
Hello?
Welcome, Pilar.
Can you hear me well? Hello?
Hello, Pilar.
Okay. Thank you, Lydia, and thank you, first of all, to the organization of Biospain for inviting Takeda to be part of this interesting panel. I would like to give you some highlights on the challenges that we face. Maybe the challenges would be enough to cover a full day session, but just to select some of the most critical ones, I would nevertheless start giving you a first overview of our company. If we can share the screen, please.
Yes, please try, Pilar.
Are you seeing my screen now?
Let's wait for 1 second. Yes. Now you can. We can see your screen. Perfect. Can you put it in full screen? Perfect.
Okay. So, let's see if the computer wants to work, because it's okay. I will give you a small background. I was mentioning what we call today Takeda Madrid has its roots in two companies that were founded more or less at the same time, Tygenics NV, a spin-off of the University of Leuven, and Celerix, which was a spin-off of the Centro Nacional de Biotecnología. These companies were merged in 2011 to join their efforts in ATMP field, with the first product that was initially approved by the EMA, Control Select, initially developed by Tygenics NV, and later we changed gears to completely focus on stem cells based therapies to have finally Alofisel approved in 2018. Alofisel was initially developed as an autologous product, and it was subsequently changed to an allogeneic model. The clinical study was started in 2012, and the results were obtained in 2015, confirming that the Atmps phase 3 trial met the primary endpoint, which allowed us to submit the marketing authorization application to the European agency. The same year, we also signed an initial agreement with Takeda for the commercialization of this product, which was ultimately transformed in a full acquisition of the company that is now an integral part of Takeda. In 2018, Alofisel was approved by the European Commission. We also got a ratification of the orphan status for this drug, and a new phase 3 trial was launched with the idea of filing Alofisel also for the US market. In parallel, the European commercial launch started also in 2018 with some relevant milestones, as the launch in Spain almost 2 years ago now, in 2019 in Spain. And more recently, I think that the most relevant milestone for us in the latest days has been the confirmation of the approval of Alofisel in Japan. Japan would receive material produced in Spain to be ultimately formulated locally and distributed to Japanese patients from our plant in Osaka. What are the challenges that we face in this road from the early days of the development to the current commercial manufacturing situation? Well, I have just summarized 3 areas where we see some challenges. As I said, selected challenges, because as my colleagues in the panel have already explained, there are plenty of them that we can touch briefly. One of the areas that has been also commented before was the logistic challenge. We have a product, in our case, today we have a shelf life of 72 hours. Initially, the project started with a shelf life of 48 hours, and with this short shelf life, we are able today to send material to 18 countries in the European Union, Switzerland, Israel, but we have also sent product end-to-end to Japan, and we are sending clinical trial materials to the US. What is the challenge? The challenge is to be able to manufacture, release every single batch of material, and in the case of Japan or the US, we have to be also able to cross the border control. Imagine for a biological product. It is a real challenge that requires a lot of coordination internally and a lot of conversation, continuous conversation with the authorities in Japan, in US and Spain, to make sure that the process is flawless and without any interruption. There is one thing which is specific for this type of products also, is that our hospitals are in direct contact with the manufacturing site. Takeda has developed a system that we call the control tower, by which the hospitals can place orders directly in an electronic system where the available capacity of our manufacturing site is visible for them, and they can select the date when they want to receive the material to be subsequently administered to the patients. This allows a lot of flexibility, a lot of transparency, and give us the chance of organizing our operations on site in an adequate manner. But it has required a paramount effort of different teams within Takeda to put together this tool. Another aspect that I think it's crucial, and I think it's crucial not only for this specific asset, but in my opinion, is crucial for the success of Atmps in the short, mid, and long term, is the sustainability of our processes. Apart from our ability to standardize this process, considering the enormous variability that we have to face with regards to the starting materials, because we shouldn't forget that we are starting with a biological material that is obtained either in an autologous setting or in an allogenic setting from donors, and this involves intrinsically a certain degree of variability. On top of that, I say that we have to make sure that these processes can cover the expectations of the highest quality standards for a pharmaceutical process, while these are sustainable and can go together with the challenges of small-scale manufacturing. I think that we will see tremendous technological development in the coming years if we want to see these ATMPs succeeding at a market level, at the accessing to the patients really. If we look back to the different products that have been so far authorized both in Europe and US, we see that after the approval is granted, the highest challenge comes afterwards when we have to ensure that the market demand is well combined or well balanced with the ability to produce and with the ability to produce at a sustainable cost for the market and for the payers of these products. And this is the driver of an enormous technological development, as I mentioned. Finally, one of the highest challenges or the highest learnings, I would say, that we have experienced in our journey with Alofisel was the building of a solid quality profile for these products. We had a team that was had a profound knowledge on the scientific basis of these products, of these medicines, and we had the challenge of transforming all this knowledge into meaningful specifications. We had to transform product characterization into critical quality attributes. We have to establish critical process parameters that would support the release of each batch of these medicines. And I think this is one of the key elements and the key strengths needed to make sure that one idea, that one research product become a commercial product available for patients in the real life. Additionally, the type of analytical methods that we are applying in the ATMP area are per se a challenge when we want to validate these methods according to the ICH standards or according to the expectations of the authorities. These are methods that have not been in the pharmaceutical business for a long time and still pose challenges for the standardization, for the availability of reference standards in many cases. We have to have a clear approach to these methods if they can be quantitative or just qualitative. And this is an important judgment that we have to build hand in hand also with the help of the regulatory authorities. And I think this is the key to overcome many of the challenges that I've mentioned here. The two keys, in my opinion, would be the access to a powerful pool of talent. As has been mentioned before, the access to the required talent and to the required skills is key in this area. And the second, not important, essential aspect is to work hand in hand with the authorities throughout the development path of any of these new drugs, because this is the only way of matching the available technologies and the expectations to succeed in the registration of these materials. And with this, I think that I can stop. I would like to emphasize that we are speaking from a company that was initially founded to work in research and to develop new drugs for patients. And we work today in a company that is completely working in offering new solutions for unmet medical needs, with a strong investment in Madrid to increase our capacity and working heavily to make this treatment accessible to patients worldwide by the technology transfer that we are driving from Madrid. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pilar, for this excellent analysis of critical points, and congratulations as well for the success of Alosficel. And then our last speaker, Dr. Sol Ruiz, will talk about the regulatory aspects about ATMPs. Please, Sol, be very
Hi,
welcome.
hello, good morning.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Lydia, for the introduction, and thanks to the organization for inviting me to be here. Again, it would be a pleasure to have been in Pamplona, but, too many meetings these days, so to afford being there. But very briefly, I will not go too much in detail, into regulatory issues because of, the time, but more about, which kind of initiatives or help is available both at the national level and at the European level if you're considering the development of an ATMP. So I would say the summary and the critical message is contact your regulatory agency as soon as possible. Even if you just have the idea of a product that you're thinking is, on the research, let's say, lab research level, but you're already considering that it may be something that you would like to move to a clinical stage, contact your agency again as soon as possible, because that can save a lot of time, resources, personal, economical resources, etc. So the first I would say is make sure that the product that you're dealing with is really an advanced therapy medicinal product or an ATMP. We have some clear cases, like for instance, gene therapy products that is very clear that they are ATMPs. But when we talk about cells or tissues, not always we have an ATMP. So I'm not going to go into the details of the regulation, but it's important that you know that is either cells, tissues. It might be a transplant, or it might be a biological product and not an ATMP. For instance, we have had consultations regarding, exosomes. So first step, I would say, consult what is the classification of your product in order to be clear how to move forward. Second, once you know that you're dealing with an ATMP and that is going to be your development, if you are in a small and medium company, there are many incentives, and particularly also at the level of the EMA, the regulatory procedures, administrative procedures. You get a lot of assistance on how to move forward through the system. Plus, you may get, you also are eligible for fee reductions of all those procedures. Also, if you're trying to develop an ATMP for an orphan indication, that is a rare disease that in the European Union is affecting not more than 5 per 10,000, you are eligible for either free scientific advice if you are academia, or fee reduction. Also, having a classification or a qualification as an orphan medicinal product has advantages regarding trying to get EU funded research. Also, even any stage of your development, feel free again to contact the agency. I would say during the clinical stages of development, my advice would be contact your local agency if you're doing clinical trials in your country or in several EU countries. Contact the local agencies. You can have normally a more direct dialogue with them. But also, depending if you're doing non-clinical or you have already started the clinical development, as you move forward, going to the EMA scientific advice procedure is also a good idea, thinking about what are the requirements regarding clinical data for a marketing authorization application. And then there are other initiatives such as PRIME, as you may know. This is an initiative from the EMA for priority medicines. And the idea of this initiative is that if you get this classification because your medicine is directed to an unmet medical need and you already have promising results, you can benefit from this initiative that includes an early appointment of rapporteur and co-rapporteur, scientific advice that is very focused, so to try to get a more efficient clinical development so patients can benefit earlier from the products. Again, and just to conclude, I mean, at least on our side, on the Spanish Medicines Agency, we have innovation office that you can always contact. I mean, we have the contact link through our website, but if not, you cannot find it, please feel free to contact me directly. We have frequent dialogues, for free, no fees, with academia and researchers doing, development of ATMPs. We're willing to talk to you any step and as frequent as you consider in order to maximize also and again make more efficient your clinical development. So with this, probably nothing new. Contact regulators as soon as possible, any time during development, to try to make sure that you get a successful development, as we have heard before in Pilar's talk. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Sol, for your words. And I think that we are already out of time, but maybe we can have the opportunity of a quick round of 2 or 3 questions. Is there anybody in the audience or who wants to start? Well, then I will. The first question for Sol. Can you give your advice on when is it better to use different regulatory initiatives that you mentioned, as ITF, PRIME? Is there any window or preference for each one?
No, thank you. Thanks for the question. I mean, I would say my recommendation is always go to your national regulatory agency. I mean, all the EU agencies participate in all the committees and working parties at the EMA. So, for instance, if you come to the Spanish agency, we will obviously recommend you when to go to the EMA. I would say because of the clinical trials are approved nationally, probably that would be the best strategy. Go to the agency or agencies if you're already considering several, clinical trials in different EU countries. But obviously, anytime, for instance, you can contact the EMA Innovation Task Force. That is a very sort of first point of entry to the EMA, and this is a very informal discussion, but they will be able to tell you already, very early, what are the incentives that you're eligible for. So either way, again, my recommendation is go to your sort of closest national agency, because they will be able to direct you also to the EMA when necessary and to describe all the different incentives available. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Sol. I have another question for Pilar. Pilar, you identified logistics as one of the main challenges of ATMPs for when the product reaches the market. You explained how you managed and you made great lengths to improve logistics, but in your opinion, is there anything else that could be done to improve these logistics?
Well, I think that from the company perspective, I think that I find that the approach that Takeda has taken to use digital tools to optimize the logistic process is one of the key aspects. Of course, the specialization of couriers is also very relevant on the way they manipulate us, the product, or the way they move the material worldwide, I would say. But I think there is one key factor, and it's probably not under our control. It is related to the fact that we have to cross borders with these materials,
Yeah.
and probably if we could somehow, I'm not sure if I can say lower the requirements, but probably make them more appropriate to this particular case of products. Probably this would help, because what we see is that many times we are encountering regulations that were written for something different, regulations that ask you to have notice previous advice to the border authorities, which is not feasible with the shelf life of these materials. So probably this is one area of improvement, but unfortunately not completely under our control.
I see. Thank you so much.
There is a question.
Oh, there is a question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me the question. Hello, this is Marian Reviriego. I just introduced myself just one second. I was part of Tagenis when Alofisel got the approval in Europe. So I have to say congratulations to Pilar and her team for achieving the approval in Japan, first of all. And then I would like to ask a question to Sol Ruiz. It's regarding Prime. You mentioned Prime, that you advise companies to go for this initiative, but according to the figures, in July this year, 2020, only 25% of the products in general, not only ATMPs, were given this initiative, were accepted. So it's just, if you can give some recommendations for companies that are working in ATMPs, what they can do to really get this Prime initiative, and if you can, I don't know if it's public, give some figures of products that have been approved the Prime initiative that are ATMPs. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your question. Very quickly, I mean, yes, we get a lot of requests. I mean, not only for ATMPs, but chemicals, biologics. I mean, obviously, it's something that we consider case by case. Why only such percentage? Because again, first, it has to go for an unmet medical need. And just to give you an example, for instance, gene therapy for hemophilia, even though we have many treatments like, plasma-derived medicinal products, recombinant, and actually quite a number of recombinant coagulation factors for hemophilia, gene therapy for hemophilia has been considered prime, the applications that we have had, because of the promise that treatment can deliver in addition to what is already there. And the promise is, when applicants have come, they already have data with, I would say months or maybe a year of follow-up, where you can see that patients do not need additional supplementation with coagulation factors. So again, that, even though there are treatments, is considered as an unmet medical need because of the promise of what this treatment can be delivered. This is just to give you an example of the rationale. Maybe the other consideration is, again, that the preliminary clinical data are sort of, let's say, good enough, even if they are, small or from a small population, to consider that this drug would deliver the promise. Not getting prime classification or qualification at some stage doesn't mean that you cannot reapply. Sometimes we have seen products where only 2 or 3 patients have been treated. It's difficult to conclude that the treatment is actually promising, but that doesn't mean that if you come a year after, maybe you can try again and the results will be a little bit more solid, so maybe you can still get this classification. So again, also the stage of development is considered, because the idea of this initiative is that it's helpful because you haven't started or you are in early clinical stages of development. But if you come when you're already conducting your phase 3 clinical trial or your pivotal trial, we do not consider that useful, because you're already conducting the trial that you consider it's going to be critical for marketing authorization. So it's very, let's say, small room for the advice from regulators as you have your clinical development quite advanced. So all these issues are considered when deciding on prime classification. Again, I would say our advice is contact your national agency if you're thinking about asking or requesting prime classification, because they are the ones who can tell you, well, I think these data are robust enough or not yet, or this is really an unmet medical need. That would be my advice. But obviously you can go anytime, but those are the reasons that we're considering when taking the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sol, for the answer. Thank you, Marian, for the question. And, I have many other questions, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. We have another session behind us, and it's time to close the session. Thank you very much indeed to the excellent speakers for your contribution and the clear ideas that you gave today about the critical paths on different aspects of Atmps. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lydia, and
Thank you.
the audience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the audience.
Bye.
Thank you, Lydia.